the organization. Perfect, David. Your name, the organization that you represent, or the project that you're here to be able to discuss and speak about. And then, can you also tell me any challenges that you might be facing, kind of in your own work, that you're hoping to be able to use this group to be able to address or overcome? So, starting off with Oliver, and then I'm going to go to Joe and Karsten.
Okay, hi. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I'm Oliver Mell. I'm with the International Network of Sortition Advocates. We're currently putting together, we're trying to get funding for a conference in Vienna entitled Sortition in an Age of Upheaval, which will be the 27th to 29th of October if it goes ahead. So I've published a few papers on more ambitious sortitional institutions, including one in the first issue of the Journal of Sortition. I'm currently working on one that's sort of on the sortition-based economic system of John Bernheim. So yeah, I'm here to sort of get feedback on that stuff, contribute what I can. It's nice to meet you all.
Perfect. Thanks, Oliver. Joe next.
Hello, thank you very much. I am a practitioner based in Berlin. Sorry, my voice is a bit. And one of our main interests here is it's related to the research we are carrying on related to lobbies. So lobbies and the role of citizens' assemblies into interacting with lobbies and bringing the new perspectives into different policy decisions, and how to institutionalize people's views, maybe through citizens' assemblies, into this kind of lobby process where governments get, advice and so on and so forth, so we can have a more clarity of what is going on, not necessarily behind closed door, but what is happening by using citizens' assemblies. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe. Karsten?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Karsten. Indeed, I'm from Freiburg, Germany. I'm one of the co-founders of Democracy R&D and involved in many networks. My organization is the European Citizens Initiative Campaign. I used to work in the European Constitutional Convention 20 years ago, where we successfully introduced the ECI, the European Citizens Initiative, and today we also work towards a new constitutional process at EU level, or primary law change, whatever we call it. Perhaps also in the context of the next enlargement circle. And I would very much like to further explore how to combine this with citizen assemblies. I'm also involved in current commission's experiment to make citizen assembly permanent and transnational level, and a few other projects connected to this. So I'm very pleased to be with you in this group.
What is your biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge actually is to get the ball rolling. We are currently stuck in the constitutional primary law, further development in the European Union. And I would love to explore how we can use, sorry, there's some voice. I would love to explore how we can use citizen assemblies to get this process ongoing. Again, of course, we've been working strongly in the Conference on the Future of Europe and so on, but this was not sufficient. So this was a good first step, but the ball is not really rolling. And would love to hear from other constitutional experiences you might have made or have heard of.
Perfect. Thank you, Karsten. And I would be remiss if I didn't really shout out Karsten for all of his help and support behind the scenes as a member of the project team, and helping to get this going and getting everyone in the room and helping us figure out what we want to be able to do with this group. So thank you, Karsten. And I just, oh, sorry, we have some folks on mute. I'm just going to mute you here. And I put, as a healthy reminder, I put kind of what we're looking for in the chat. So again, name, organization, and either your biggest challenge or what you're trying to get out of this group. So next up, I have Wayne, followed by Mel and Peter.
Was that Wayne, Jim?
Wayne Liedman, yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm from public. I don't know, somebody needs to mute.
No, Sorry, David. I'm just gonna mute you. Oh, I can't mute. David Schechter, if you can mute David, please. You're just getting a bit of background noise. Thank you.
All right. So I'm from Los Angeles, and I guess I represent Public Access Democracy, PAD. We're a nonprofit advocating for sortition. One of our projects is PDLA, Public Democracy Los Angeles, which is working to stand up an assembly in Los Angeles. The city council is currently working on charter reform. We've been banging at the doors, trying to get this done by an allotted assembly, and we are in various stages of possibly having them listen to us and using an assembly as an advisory body. But that's very much you know very much not a real thing yet. Just something that we're working on as for advocacy. So that's what we're doing, and we're not at the stage where we're designing anything yet.
Perfect. Thank you, Wayne. Mel?
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. I'm from an organisation called Centre for Governance and Scrutiny, which is not what it says on the paperwork, but I find myself, I used to be a practitioner doing deliberative democracy, but I now find myself in this amazing world in local government in England, where we go into councils and do governance reviews. Often included within that are constitution reviews. So we will be looking at councils' constitutions, giving them recommendations on how to improve them, etc. But obviously, I now feel a bit of a bridge. So I've got two worlds going on, and I'm keen to try and connect them some way. And we have explored a little bit around how we build these things into sort of local government constitutions. And we're using the frame relational constitutions as one of our key lines of inquiries. How do we make constitutions more generally a relational thing rather than a sort of technocratic black letter kind of legal document? But we do have problem in England. I think I'm probably could say UK, but I don't know if it's the same elsewhere. But we are legally, when they're elected members, councillors, politicians are not formally able to delegate their decision making. So they have to hold that remit, and so trying to find a way to connect these two things in a different way of doing institutionalization is what I'm interested in.
Perfect. Thank you, Mel, and look forward to hearing more about these processes as we go on. So next I have Peter Bryant, followed by Ronan and Demir.
Hi, everyone. Like Mel, I'm in the UK as well. I'm a practitioner working for an organization called Shared Future. And I guess the challenge I'm facing is that, like lots of us, I've been running deliberative processes, assemblies and juries for about 20 years, and continuously frustrated when they land that many local authorities don't know what to do with them because they don't sit within the representative democracy framework that they're used to working on and with. So I'm really hopeful that this group might help me see where some constitutions have maybe allowed that deliberative democracy to be more better respected and taken into account in decision making.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. Ronan?
Hi, my name is Ronen Gofer, and like my colleague here, David Dunitz, I'm from Israel, representing Democracy 3.0. First, we are part of the family of Democracy R&D, and I'm happy to be here. We are now finishing in the next 4 weeks 6 local citizen assemblies in Israel at the same time as part of the laboratory for citizen assembly in local authorities. And in the past year and a half, we are trying to have a national citizen assembly on a big issue like the Constitution or perhaps the nature of our democracy. This is something that is happening in the past 2 years in Israel. A lot of debate, protests, and so on. And we're considering a national one. It could be a bottom-up citizen assembly because of political issues in Israel.
Perfect. Thank you, Ronan. 6 assemblies at the same time. That's quite an endeavor. So I look forward to hearing more about that. Next up, I have Demir, followed by Antoine, and then Wendy.
Hi, so my name is Damir Kapičić. I am a professor at the University of Sarajevo in Bosnia, and 3 years ago, I ran a constitutional assembly, more of a sort of bottom-up and top-down mix, trying to get national politicians to make changes to electoral issues in the constitution. And that sort of, there were challenges there, and I can talk more about those. Essentially, the uptake was the biggest challenge, and getting real commitment for the process was a big challenge as well. Right now, I'm working with a bunch of associations that bring together municipalities to try and include deliberative methods into their charters as much as possible, sort of trying to seed it on the ground as much as we can. And that's an ongoing process. So even there, I might, ask for some input on how to best both lobby and approach. So both of these processes are happening in Bosnia. It's on a national level. Some of it also sort of crosses regionally with the help of international organizations like the Council of Europe. But I'll gladly talk more about that.
Perfect. Thank you, Demir. Antoine, followed by Wendy.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Antoine. I'm with Mission Publique. So why I'm here is because I hope that we are going to talk about rules for rules and rules for rules for rules, and how you make rules about rules. And it means two things. It means it's a meta discussion, and it means it's a fractal discussion. And that's my two passions about decision making and collective decision making. And I think that's very interesting, because it's always or very often in what we do as practitioner, but in many places it's you have a kind of givens on the rules to do stuff, like aggregation, for example, and voting. And so what I hope to get from that group is inspiration on rules to make rules, and also something about connection to good research. And because my feeling always when working on those topics is that apparently I don't know how to search well, because there must have been some good research about that. But when you start looking at decision-making protocols and meta governance, then it's very difficult to find research on that. So that's why I'm interested. And I have no specific challenge because this group is more luxury for me to take the time to think about that meta level and how to inspire and improve the practice we have in deliberation. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Antoine. Well, you're in the right place, both in terms of being able to discuss rules about rules, but also a wealth of practitioners and researchers here who would definitely be able to connect you with some good research that's on the ground already. Wendy, followed by Rob, and then Nick.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see. It's nice to see constitutional geeks together early in the morning here on the West Coast. My name is Wendy Willis. I'm the director of a statewide community engagement program in Oregon on the West Coast of the United States called Oregon's Kitchen Table. I'm in the moment of like rethinking my life choices. I've spent decades in deliberative democracy, and as you all are seeing, I can't say that deliberative democracy is having a reign of victory in the United States right now. And so, I think I've been thinking and writing and talking about deliberation around foundational documents for a long time. And I think for right now, there's all kinds of challenges, but the biggest one is the risk reward trade-off is really high. And so So, you know, we been able to do this, to sort of embrace deliberative democracy around constitutional questions at a different time, it would have felt higher reward, low risk, and now the risk factors, you know, are very high, and in people who are pushing for something like a constitutional convention, or, you know, which we've never had in the United States. So there's just a lot of, I think the conversation about constitutionalism has to proceed cautiously when we're talking about actual amendments, given the potential for, you know, regressive amendments in our Constitution. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about this morning. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Wendy. So my name's Rob Weymouth. I'm in Western Australia. I'm involved in two things at the moment. One of them is work for local governments, like you, Mel, and yes, it is the same in Australia. Local governments, it's against the law for them to delegate authority to citizen groups. But the other work that I'm working on at the moment is looking at neighbourhood level or precinct level reductions in carbon, aiming towards net zero, and in particular governance around that, and in particular the way, for example, groups of people in strata or blocks of flats or suburbs could potentially come together, install community batteries, and then what sort of constitutions and charters and rules about rules might you have around that? So that's my particular interest at the moment.
Perfect. Thank you, Rob. Nick, followed by Alexandra.
Hey, everyone. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
what's your name?
Nick Vlahos. Sorry about that. Nick Kakoma will get to you in a quick second. But yeah, Nick Vlahos, followed by Alexandra, and then Kunal.
Yeah, hi everyone. Good to see everyone, and some familiar faces and new ones. So I'm Nick Vlahos. I'm based in Toronto, in Canada. I work for the National Civic League, which is a longstanding good governance organization based in the U.S. I work specifically in the Center for Democracy Innovation there. And so I work sort of as a practitioner, as an academic with broad interest in participatory deliberative democracy. In the Center for Democracy Innovation, we have some interests in renovating formal civic infrastructure, like how do we get legislative bodies to actually be more deliberative? And so we're working mostly with local governments on how we actually can inject innovations into these processes. And then on another level, you know, the history of the league is based around a model city government, a model city charter, and so specifically local governments and city charters. And so this has got me thinking, along with David Schechter and Lynn Davis. We wrote a piece on how to embed citizens assemblies within the process of doing local city charters. But then thinking about how can you rethink an actual city charter and institutionalize participation. And so I guess where I'm at is thinking about the complexity of making those sorts of decisions, the political factors that go into doing local city charter reform, and how do you do a good actual process? What would we want to put into that, and the like.
Perfect. Thank you, Nick. Alexandra, and then Kunal.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Alexandra Koidel. I represent Kyiv School of Economics, Ukraine. I'm a principal investigator of a Europe Horizon EU project. It's called Bridge, and within this project, we're working with the Technical University of Berlin to introducing a citizens' assembly at one of the local levels at the municipality in Ukraine. We're actually running an open competition among eligible municipalities to apply with their topics to our funding, our European funding. We had already 3 in-person information events. I just came from Ukraine. Well, our partners and me, we've been in Ukraine doing these presentations. And also we are running a spring school on citizens assembly to try to build a community of future moderators. The challenges that we have is, like many of you have described, is that in the charters of the local governments in Ukraine, they don't have a specific mentioning of the deliberative democracy, but also they're pretty flexible. So the Council of Europe already had some experience and with 2 municipalities in Ukraine, and interestingly, they actually made council decisions approving that they are going to review and report on the decisions of the Citizens' Assembly. And from these discussions, it was very interesting. And I want to see what is the international practice of how to do it, what are the typical challenges, to see what can we do differently and better in our project. And we are also a university, so we want to contribute to the research on everything around Citizens' Assembly, and specifically on how to make sure that they are part of the normal process in the representative democracy. So thanks a lot, and I'm happy to learn from you.
I want to make sure and connect you with Eva Bordos, who may be joining on from a bus on the phone, or she may not be able to, but she's with Demnet in Hungary, and she's done work on some local citizen assemblies in Ukraine. And I mentioned you, and I mentioned what the Kiev school is doing. So you folks definitely should connect.
That's great. I know that she was probably the Council of Europe expert leading this experience.
Thanks, Alexandra. Happy to have you here. Kunal?
Yeah, hi, thanks. So, hi, this is Kunal from Center for Environmental Education. I am a project officer based in Pune. So, in Pune, from last few years, we are currently working on sustainable mobility aspect and the child road safety. So, in this particular domain, that few challenge we are facing like that, like this is one of the complex things where every stakeholder has a different kind of perspective and aspect. So in order to have inclusive participation, which are the better ways for discussing this kind of issue, and then how we can simplify these critical aspects with the good education material. And along with that, there are many civic organizations working on this sustainable mobility aspect. So we are also means like one of the challenge for us also how various organization can adopt a citizen assembly or participation is one of the way along with us. So these are 2-3 types of challenges we are facing when it comes to Pune based and the sustainable mobility aspect and child road safety aspect in Pune and India. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Kunal. Next up, we have David Dinetz, followed by Joe Matthews. And Joe, I know you're in the car, so if you're not able to chat, just put it in the chat, and it will come back to you later. And then Paul Melman.
Hey, me? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Hello, everybody. I'm sitting in the street here in Tel Aviv, Israel. As my colleague Ronan said, we are part of the Laboratory for Citizens Assemblies that was set up here. And we are very concerned about, in the context of Israel right now, is a severe democratic backsliding and crisis of war. And still, we've been able to scale up and do these 6 assemblies at the local level, and there's interest. And I think one of the key issues that we're looking at is also how I think the interest around citizens assemblies is not just as a technical decision-making tool, but as a way of maybe recreating a shared common future for the peoples in the area. Big issue. We don't have a constitution. We don't even have recognized borders. Difficult to how to navigate in such a situation. But in many ways, people are looking to us and coming to us for a possible way of contributing to a much wider conversation on the future of this country in the area. We have a study group, actually a working group that Ronan and I have set up with an academic institution here in Israel that is thinking about what kind of constitutional and legal devices and apparatus do we have to set up, or can we set up, in order to make citizens assembly embedded within decision-making process at the local and at the national level. So coming to this group is really part of our, really part of our core mission. We're looking to learn from others, from your experience, from what's been done at the constitutional level. Just, every bit of inspiration we can gather is always, especially at Democracy R&D, is always welcome. And we may be able to contribute a thing or two, I hope.
Perfect. Thank you, David. Joe Matthews, are you able to chat right now, or?
I am. Yes,
Perfect.
I'm Joe Matthews. I'm a journalist in Los Angeles. I write a syndicated column in California. I'm a fellow at the Berggruen Institute in the Renovating Democracy program, and I have a new planetary publication called Democracy Local, which is about what you think it sounds like it's about. Two big things I'm interested in doing, finding allies to do, is that, essentially, as nation states sort of falter and the national level becomes sort of corrupt and politicized around the world, governance, including governance of big issues, planetary issues, is falling to local governments. They need a new structure, new constitution, new charters that allows them to both govern themselves and to govern, probably in collaboration with others, the world. And I'd like to kind of create a model charter for that, and probably in the process of, I think there's going to be a lot of different kinds of planetary governance that comes out of the local level. So that's more broadly, and then closer to home, I see the American constitutional republic is dead. It had a great run, but it's over, and we need to write something new. What a great opportunity. And so I'm involved a little bit with some folks who are trying to scratch out what that would look like. And that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe. Next up, I have Paul Melman, followed by Forrest and Tyrell.
Hi, I'm Paul Melman. I am with Assemble America, along with Nikki Coma, and also with an organization called Election by Jury. Right now, I think that our biggest challenges are mostly just being able to coordinate with other people who are interested in deliberative reform and form alliances and consistently sort of cooperate together, especially with regards to getting involved in established political campaigns, trying to influence people, trying to set up ballot measures, et cetera, just to coordinate those efforts. I hope to, from this group, I hope to find some, have more allies and more collaborators to work on these projects with. I think Nick will probably mention a little bit more about what Assemble America is working on. Election by jury, we're interested in ballot measure, charter reform, et cetera, stuff to sort of supplement or perhaps replace, ideally, the system of electing politicians by, normal election votes, but instead use deliberative processes such as election by randomly selected assemblies or juries, which does exist already, it turns out, in the United States, in the state of Georgia, and we're trying to expand that. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul. Forrest next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Forrest. I am with the Assembly Project. This is based out of New York. Specifically, I live in Brooklyn. And the work that we do is to catalyze civic assemblies across the US, but specifically here in the Northeast. One project we're currently working on is something called the CUNY Climate Assembly Project. CUNY is the City University of New York, largest public urban university in the US, 270,000 students, 20 campuses. So essentially a small municipality or a medium-sized municipality, depending on where you're from. And so we're working on that with them. As far as what I hope to get out of this is, in general, I'd like to see the US move to a state where almost our theories have changed in every single assembly. We are thinking about how do you institutionalize deliberation? And I think there's, when thinking about the theory of change here in the US, if we're constantly in a state of getting one-off projects without having that being focused on to like, where does this lead to some type of institutionalization and to where it is embedded, we could miss opportunities. And there's already been waves of deliberation within the US. This is, I think, like the second or third wave at least. And so I think that we need to approach it differently. And I'd love to just learn from the community practitioners here and how we can do that. So I'm excited to be here in general and hope to hear a lot from y'all.
Hi, this is Terrell Bericius in Vermont, USA. I refer to myself as a recovering politician. I was a state legislator for 10 years and a city councilor for 10 years before that. And I've been working on sortition primarily as a theorist rather than as a practitioner. I've never actually attended any citizens assembly anywhere in the world. So I see myself more as a resource than as somebody who has a project. I am a member of Assemble America, which was mentioned, which is looking at the prospect if a national constitutional convention does end up being called, despite a lot of liberals being fearful of it, how can we try and steer that so that it's not an elected body, but a sortition selected national convention? So there are projects in the United States that might be relevant, but I'm not focused on them. I'm more somebody who's written a lot of bylaws, written a lot of charter change amendments, dealt with constitutional amendments at the state level. So I'm more of the writer of legal language for implementing and institutionalizing.
Perfect. Thanks, Cyril. Happy to have you here. And it's an interesting question you posed too, as well as other folks in the States, about what do we do if a national constitutional convention has been is called. Next up, I have Ben Mansky, followed by Ian, and then Philip.
Hi there, everybody. You're able to hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, very good. I just transitioned from another meeting. My name is Ben Mansky. I'm a professor of sociology at George Mason University with Next System Studies and the Next Constitutions Research Lab. I am coordinating a number of comparative studies of processes of constitutional change from below, and also in working with a number of social movement organizations in the States and elsewhere around the world that are working on constitutional change. I do a lot of work with political economic system change. So just came from a 3-day summit here in Northern Virginia, where participatory planning and assemblies were on the agenda with the solidarity economy movement and others. So there's a lot of crossovers here. Also a lot of history of work around municipalism, municipal home rule, and so on. So I'm pleased to be here, and I look forward to this process.
Perfect. Thank you, Ben. Ian?
Hey, I'm Ian Tresoyer. I am a volunteer for Assemble America, and I'm also the secretary for Democracy Without Elections. I am strongly in support of a Article 5 constitutional convention by basically multi-body sortition. I think that everyday people should be rewriting the Constitution. I think the United States is in a constitutional crisis, and that's what I'm hoping to achieve.
Thanks, Ian. And then Philip, followed by Jonathan and Kyle Redman.
Hey, everybody. Basic 2 projects. I'm with the Hannah Arendt Center at Bard College, live in New York City, mostly working in the New York area and the Philly, Pennsylvania area. And the 2 projects relevant to this group, one is we're going to run some sort of citizens jury or assembly at the National Constitution Center in Philly sometime next year. And what that becomes and what it can be, whether whether as mainly a sort of model process that catalyzes sort of funding interest or political interest or legitimacy, or some Pennsylvania relevant process relevant to Pennsylvania state constitution is to TBD. And that would be in Pennsylvania next year. And then the other relevant process is stuff at the local level in New York City, where I'm working with Forrest. There's been potential changes to the New York City Charter, or proposals to the New York City Charter by one of the current mayoral candidates on centering an affordable housing plan with a New York City charter change that would establish a citizens assembly to focus on various issues, but with chartered legal status. So those are the two projects, and excited to learn from everybody and collaborate on all this stuff.
Perfect. A lot happening there. Thanks for joining us. Kyle, followed by Jonathan, and then Nicholas.
Thanks, Jim. Hey, everyone. I'm Kyle. At the moment, I'm in Belgium working for the Federation for Innovation and Democracy Europe, but I used to be in Australia at the Democracy Foundation, where there's lots of interesting conversations around renovating our constitution. So I am just sort of casually interested. But my involvement in this group is motivated by some work I'm doing in San Francisco with the AI and Democracy Foundation, where we've received funding from the UK government's Advanced Research and Invention Agency to explore models for AI, frontier AI lab organizations to democratize their decision-making processes. And so we have a bunch of money to go and run some pilots and get involved with some lawyers and stuff like that. So yeah, interested to know not so much constitutional stuff, but legal frameworks for companies.
Perfect. Thank you, Kyle. Jonathan, and then Nicholas Kakoma.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Jonathan from Kenya. If we go to around 2010, Kenya received a constitution. And this constitution was in Kenya politics, political space, and it has a different constitution. I like the one was used by politicians to suppress the local people or the local community. But this other one, which I participated very Kenyans, was actually people themselves, and it grew all the way. It is a progressive constitution, and I would say that it works very well. Only that the challenge that we have is politicians who are during the constitution.
Jonathan, we're having a lot of trouble hearing you. Can you type in the chat so that everybody gets all what you're saying? Because I can only hear a very few words. I think other people probably can.
Yeah, Jonathan, you're breaking up a little bit. So do you mind just typing in the chat? We're able to get a gist of it, but if you can put it in the chat, that might help. And also turning off your camera might be good too. So maybe try turning off your camera and see if we can hear you from there.
Okay.
Perfect. How's it sounding now, Jonathan?
Can you hear me? Yes. So can I proceed?
Excellent. Perfect. We can hear you a lot better.
Okay, thank you. I was saying that the Kenya Constitution is a progressive one. It's a new constitution which was developed in 2010 by the Kenyan community, the whole Kenyan community. I participated in the same in the development of that constitution, and all along we have some bottlenecks which are there. in terms of implementation of this constitution. Why? It is because many of the political class who were there in the previous constitution, who are still there at the moment, do not want to implement this constitution. So there is need to influence change within the parliament. The parliament is the overall authority whereby the people of Kenya can legislate through their representatives. So I would say that in Kenya, we are better off in terms of having the constitution in place, but we are badly off in terms of implementation of the said constitution. Secondly, I would say that the people themselves, because we have two governments in place. We have the national government, and we have the default units called county governments. We have 47 of them here in Kenya. But the other problem we have is default corruption. The corruption has been default to the county levels from the national level. And at the same time, there is also corruption at the top level. So there is a big gap in terms of implementation of programs or activities or development for the people. So we have a huge problem in terms of that. Putting that aside, I have worked with in implementing some of the charters. Like I was the president of the national eco-based system for it's called Ebafosa Kenya or Ebafosa Africa. That one is about ecosystem-based adaptation for food security assembly. That one was African Union's brainchild for to tackle issues of climate change and environmental degradation in Africa. So I was in that. I implemented one of the best charters of engagement, and then I think I have done quite a number of developing or formulating policies which are people-centered, and I am actually happy to say that we have done quite a lot in terms of that in our organization. I'm leading an organization called AIM Resources. It's a consultancy firm, and we have been engaging quite a number of policymakers in addressing issues that are affecting the common person. Thank you very much. I think I should leave this space for other people to contribute also. Thank you.
Always, and thank you, Jonathan. And you bring up a really good question about like how to be able to navigate these processes and change the constitution when you have to navigate corruption. So I look forward to having more discussions on that as well. Okay, next up here we have. Let's make sure I'm not missing anyone. Okay, perfect. I think the last up, Shane, are
Nick
you?
Kokoma.
Oh, and Nick Kokoma. Perfect. There we are.
Hi, everyone. Nick Akoma here in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm with Assemble America. And as my colleagues Paul, Melman, and Ian said earlier, our major goal is to convene a People's Constitutional Convention to rewrite the United States Constitution and ensure that that process, as Terry was saying, is done in a deliberative, democratic fashion. The biggest challenge to this is, I mean, I don't need to really, I think, explain that to people on this call. You've all seen, as Wendy was saying, the Joe Matthews, how our constitutional system is rotting away before our eyes and may, in fact, be, for all intents and purposes, dead. And so we're trying to call for this convention in the context of authoritarianism on the rise, highly partisan political context, and more challenging for our particular purposes is the fact that most Americans still do not know about sortition or deliberative democracy or citizens assembly. So even the opposition or any quote unquote pro democracy forces that we have are not really aware of what we would consider real democracy. That is, everyday citizens being picked by lottery and deliberating with information, etc. So, so that plus the under resourcing of the field, the deliberative democracy field, are among the many significant challenges. But we have hope, despite all of these, and because of the situation being what it is, it's kind of a go big or go home situation. Might as well swing for the fences, given the situation we're in. Thanks very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Nick. And then Shay, are you able to come off mute, or are you still in transit?
No, should be possible. Is it all right?
Yep, no, you're good. We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you also for inviting and setting this up. This is great. I work with an organization called Pro Futuris, which is part of the Swiss Society for the Common Good. And we are quite new team, a relatively new team that is centered around democratic culture and norms. And our specific focus is on polarization and what that means for democratic systems and how we can develop or update our democratic structures. And in the past, 2.5 years, I've been designing and running a citizen assembly called the Future Council Under 24, which is a citizen assembly for young people. And I'm glad we learned a lot. And following up this project, basically, we decided not to just replicate it or scale the project, but instead work on a concrete model that we could implement, like a institutionalization project. So I'm very happy that we just 2 weeks ago, we got the funding and the support for setting up a national alliance here in Switzerland that is specifically set up to model a legal structure that would allow an embedded citizen assembly as kind of an experimental article, we call it, within a certain time frame, like 7 to 10 years, to have many iterations actually of a citizen assembly on the subnational level, like on the cantonal level, it's called in Switzerland. So that's the state level. So when I heard about this group, I was really glad because there's not so much research, especially here in Switzerland, about this. So I'm very, very happy to connect. So quite concretely, in the next 10 months, we will be working on this proposal. And ultimately, this will be in front of cantonal parliament and the executive government. And so we're trying to push this through and get this 7 to 10 years of kind of experimental iterations of a citizen assembly on the cantonal level. And ideally, this will be a model or like a prototype for other state level governments or parliaments to implement this too. And maybe a side note, the cool thing is here in Switzerland, if we don't get through this with this in parliament or the government, we can propose it with a direct democracy measure. So we could actually see, I think, the first popular initiative for a citizen assembly, maybe. I don't know if there was another test of this, but we might end up there, that we actually have a vote on if a citizen assembly should be experimentally implemented in a canton here in Switzerland. Many challenges there, of course, but I'm very glad that we have a concrete project where we can really now work on and hope to give it into this group and maybe get feedback or whatever. Let's see.
Perfect. Very cool, Shay. Really, that's actually really exciting to be able to hear about. Okay, thank you everyone for taking the time to be able to introduce yourself, share your projects, some of the challenges and initiatives that you're working with. I just want to quickly introduce the Democracy R&D project team. So we have David Schechter, co-founder of Democracy R&D. We're also joined by Felipe, who's one of the co-leads of Democracy R&D, as well as one of the co-founders of IDEMOS, as well as Indira Torre, also co-lead of Democracy R&D and co-founder of IDEMOS. So for now, I'm going to pass it to David and Felipe to actually talk about what we're all here about and explain a little bit about the purpose and goals of this group.
Okay, and actually, even before that, I have personal projects that I'm interested in, challenges. I have three things. One, developing methodology for the design or amending of charters and constitutions. I've developed some methodology about institutionalizing deliberation that went into the Frontiers Project Institutionalization Guidebook. Along with developing the methodology, I want to work with as many teams as I can who are actually developing even reference designs, proposals like what Shay was talking about, try the methodology, develop things, and then refine the methodology as needed. And the third thing that I want to do is make this group successful, is figure out a model and a process of mutual aid so that everybody in here can have a lot more success, more easily, more fun, more support than if we all worked separately. And what are my challenges? One challenge is we've got a bunch of projects that are funded and we have commitments to funders. Those always take priority. This is not yet one. Another is I haven't found the teams to work with yet in terms of the group process. It's just, I don't know that much about it. We're doing it as we go. And I can also say that Felipe is part of a very exciting project about comparative constitutionalism with people in Europe and Latin America. And he and Indira and Yeva Chesnulaitite and a couple of other people are working on citizen assemblies in constitutions and so forth as part of that project. But at any rate, about the group, what is the focus? This is for people who are doing three things: researching, developing, and communicating. Researching and developing and communicating what? Ways to incorporate democratic innovations, especially but not exclusively based in civic lottery and deliberation, into constitutions and charters, and also into the processes of creating and amending constitutions and charters. Who are the members or the intended members? Mostly Democracy R&D members, some others, more over time. Eventually, I want to connect with people who are influential in the worlds of constitutions and charters. What goals? This group as a group has no goal. We have no big project we're going to try to do together. Instead, our goal is to make the projects and the aspirations of every one of you and me and Felipe and Indira and whoever more successful than it could be if we worked it separately. How are we going to do that? So far, recurring meetings like this, plus asynchronous communication. We want to learn what everybody can learn, what everybody else is doing, what their challenges are. We want to give and receive help. We want to learn from each other and make it easy for people to propose new collaborative projects and find partners. What do we ask of you to be part of this group? 4 things. 1, share information about your project, your challenges, and what help you could use. 2, help other people when you can and how you can. And 3, share any other information that would be useful for group members, resources, experiences, news. And finally, if you share process ideas and expertise in terms of how to make this kind of collaboration work. Felipe and I and Jim and Karsten are just figuring it out and one little step at a time. That is what this group is about.
Oh, I was muted. Thank you very much. My name is Felipe Rey. I am a professor of constitutional law in Colombia. I think that David has given us a very clear description of what this interest group is about. What I would like to do is to complement what he said by explaining why we believe this group is important, both for our network and for the broader field of deliberative democracy and democratic innovation. So in the last 10 years, almost eight countries made a new constitution. Some of them are, of course, authoritarian constitutions. So we had the cases of Tunisia in 2014, Nepal, Congo, the Gambia. We had two constitutional processes in Chile, both of them failed, in Mali, in Chad, and in Central African Republic. These are the complete new constitutions that we had in the world in the last 10 years. But then if we see what major constitutional reforms we had in the last 5 years, we have almost 8 important cases. In Mexico, the judicial reform in Mexico, in Ecuador in 2024, Spain also had an important constitutional reform. India had its 106th constitutional amendment. France on abortion, Ireland. United States didn't have it's very difficult, as you know, many of you are from the United States, very difficult to reform the Constitution, but there was a proposed judicial reform by the Biden government, and in Togo as well. So all of this is happening now. Every year we have 3 or 4 countries that are enacting new constitutions. So what I would like to ask you is, imagine that tomorrow a reform, and this can happen, a reformer from a distant country calls, or maybe from a close country, asks us, we want to constitutionalize citizens' assemblies. We want to make sortition a recognized method of democratic representation. How should we do it? So the question that I have for you is, are we confident that we would know how to answer? So for example, we would know what principles a deliberative constitution should include. Would we know what constitutional interpretations could guide the application of those principles over time? Would we know where within the structure of government citizens' assemblies could fit and how they should be designed? Would we know what it would take for a state to organize citizens' assemblies under conditions of impartiality and fairness? And how would a constitutional norm describing citizens' assemblies even would look? What legal status should the members of a citizens' assemblies hold? And how decisions of citizens' assemblies could be reviewed, challenged, or upheld within a legal framework. So these are the kinds of questions we want to tackle within this group. I will finish with this. I will also want to propose a clarification. So this is not exactly a discussion about whether citizens' assemblies should have decision-making power. This is a different kind of discussion. So assemblies could be constitutionalized in various ways as decision-making bodies, yes, but also in advisory roles or as mechanisms for civic engagement. And similarly, this is another clarification. This is not simply about institutionalization in general, because our focus, as I understand it, is narrower, is more specific, in the sense that we are addressing a necessary and often overlooked question that institutionalization raises, and is how should the law, broadly understood, should engage with citizens' assemblies and deliberative innovations. So I just wanted to spark the discussion and try to present some of the examples, some of the controversies of some of the debates that we can discuss in this group. But hopefully in 1 year or in 2 or in some months, we can get to some of the answers for these imaginary constitutional reformers that maybe someday will want to include citizens' assemblies in their own constitutions.
Perfect. Thank you, Felipe and David. And I just want to pause here for a quick second, just to see if anyone has any questions, comments about kind of the purpose and goals of this group, or anything else that you think this group should be tackling or discussing as we go forward. Perfect. Oliver, I see your hand.
Yeah, just a quick observation. It seems like we got a lot of people here who've got a very strong focus on citizens' assemblies. We also have some people here, such as Terrell, who have developed quite sophisticated models that are not citizens' assemblies, but are still sortational. I think it will be really useful to kind of exchange ideas on that and help people sort of explore the space of what can we do with sortation beyond the forms that maybe we're familiar with institutionalizing.
Perfect. Thank you, Oliver. Great observation. And we definitely want to be able to create space for that going forward as well, too. We acknowledge that we have so much knowledge just within the space at all. We really want to be able to utilize it and be able to provide space for you to all be able to share and learn and build from each other. Terrell, I saw you unmute. Is there anything that you wanted to add at all?
Oh, just I would hope we would also look at areas like the discussion about AI briefly there. There are whole domains which are ungoverned right now, which are perfectly set up for a deliberative, jury sort of, and so empty spaces are perfect for us to try and leap into because there's no competition.
Excellent observation. And yeah, I think that's going to be a part of the discussion in the group as well, too, in terms of, how best to be able to take advantage of all these particular moments that we're in, whether it's the situation in the States right now or the advent of AI in our field and in other areas. So I have Ben, followed by Mel.
Yeah, just very closely related to that and provoked by it. A lot of the work that I do and that a lot of my close colleagues do involves digital technology. And so the intersection of constitutional change, political economic transition, and participatory planning and governance using digital technology, particularly Decedine, is something that is very much present here. And I know probably for a lot of other people in this process. So I just want to chime in and say that's another, the question of digital technology and constitutional deliberation is something that we're very interested in.
Perfect. Excellent. Mel?
Few points. First, I just wanted to respond to Philippe's thing about imagination. I've just come from a collective imagination practitioner group meeting, which they really do think very, very differently. And it's very inspiring to be in those conversations. And it made me think about ourselves and how up perhaps we are for imagining kind of the discourse of deliberative democracy and decision making more generally as part of the thinking around constitution. So it was sort of a challenge to me, really, and I throw that challenge out to you. But the second point was around constitutions. We've talked a bit about governance, but I just want to throw the love heart out for scrutiny. So there's something really powerful about the role of scrutiny within constitutions, and is possibly a slightly different way in for thinking about collaborative and deliberative scrutiny mechanisms and holding decision makers to account as part of that framework.
Perfect. Thank you, Mel. Excellent. And that's a great idea for framing in terms of some of the conversation that we can have to adding on to that in terms of really like highlighting what that scrutiny could look like. Any other thoughts or comments before we kind of wrap up in terms of our proposal and then next steps? Perfect. Oh, sorry, Wendy, go on.
Hi, just one thing that I've been thinking as I listen to the introductions is that there is, everyone is not on the precise same page on, several questions here. And I think that's a really interesting, I think those disagreements, tensions, uncertainties, this is a safe and good and generative and imaginative, in Mel's word, place to explore those. I think out in the big world, we have to be zealots, but I'm excited about the sort of opportunity here to put the zealotry down and look at things, in multiple ways. And so I just would, encourage us to lean into that part of this as well as the places where we have overlap.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you for that, Wendy. And I think that's an excellent point to be able to bring up. We acknowledge that not everyone here is on the same page in terms of how we think deliberative democracy should fundamentally look like in terms of institutions. Do we get rid of all elections? Does it augment, etc.? And I really want to echo your point in terms of this is a safe place to be able to have those conversations, to be able to navigate that with each other, and to be able to grow, learn together, maybe come to some, not even come to some mutual consensus, but think about how we can navigate these differences that we might have, and while still maintaining our goals publicly, and how to be able to move forward in the face as a unified deliberative democracy front. And a lot of what you've brought up in your introductions is even the conversation that's been happening in the chat right now, I think really gets down to the key of what we want to be able to do with this group. We're not necessarily aiming to have this like some other democracy R&D groups where we say have a unified project or goal that we're all like want to be able to work on together. We want to be able to leave this as a space for all of us to be able to interact and to come together as a practice, to learn, to grow, to share, and also to help each other out with some of these sticky points that we can all kind of come to when we're in our practice. So I just want to do a bit of an overview of how we envision this group going. And then I want to hear some comments in terms of if that resonates with people or if there's anything else that you'd want to see. So in terms of proposal and processes, first, in terms of frequency, we don't want to be able to take up too much of your time. We realize that we're all dealing with so many other different projects at a time. So we're just hoping to have this group meet once every 2 months. In terms of time of the day, seems like we had a really good turnout here today, and so this time might be the consistent timing for every 2 months. So 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. in the UK, and then 1700 for Central European Standard Time. If anyone has any comments or any ideas otherwise, please feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand, but I'm seeing some thumbs up already, which is great. Next up, in terms of how long should group meetings be? Again, we have a really great group and a really big group as well. So I think we want to stick with our 90-minute meetings. That being said, depending on what the topic and conversation is for that day, it might be a little bit less, but better to give us some buffer time at least. And then, of course, we acknowledge that folks might have to leave early, and you're more than welcome to do so. We're going to be recording each of the meetings and then circulating them amongst the group. We will keep it private, so don't feel like your thoughts are going to be spread out anywhere or everything like that, for folks who either had to leave early or are not able to attend. And then in terms of like what these meetings should look like. So again, we're not really looking to have any sort of like group project that we all want to pursue together, but more so again to be able to learn and build from each other. So we have a pretty simple proposal for what these meetings might look at. Of course, welcome and being able to have some space where we can all update each other on what we're doing and maybe make some space for us to be able to do a bit of troubleshooting. But what we're really hoping to be able to achieve is once every meeting, we have either a mini workshop where one person or one group or maybe a couple people can have a dedicated amount of time to speak about an initiative that they're working on or projects, and we can and have it as a group discussion in terms of how to be able to navigate through a sticky issue or any other thing that you'd want to be able to get the group's thoughts on. So really giving the space to you folks to be able to take up the floor and get some feedback from the group in terms of any particular issue or project that you're working on, or even just an idea. So each month we'll be reaching out to folks and inviting you to be able to add to the agenda, so to speak, between governance, add to the agenda a topic of discussion that you'd want to be able to work for, and then we can set aside a lot of time for us to be able to navigate that together. If we don't have a mini workshop for that meeting, whether it be dedicated to a project or otherwise, we'll also set aside a time just to be able to discuss some of these different topics that we've been chatting about. For example, I've been hearing a lot about AI. We've been hearing a lot about, and Mel brought up the scrutiny. And so being able to have discussions about that together as a field and really making it a space for us to be able to grow and maybe work through some of these issues and how we can kind of navigate within our own little spheres. And then, of course, again, any other time to be able to set aside some project, our old project discussions, updates from the group, and keep each other appraised of what's going on. Finally, in terms of how we envision this group working, we want to be able to have a lot of asynchronous communication in between our bi-monthly meetings. So what we're proposing is that we actually create a group Slack channel. And if people have any issues with Slack or have another software they want to be able to communicate on, please feel free to put it in the chat or let me know. But I think the benefit with Slack is the fact that we can also create a general channel where we can go and we can share links to research, give each other appraisals of our initiatives, and just have consistent communication throughout. Finally, and I think the one benefit of Slack, and I see Discord in the chat, which could also be also work as well too, is that we can create dedicated channels for specific projects. So if you have a project that you want to be able to work on and that you want to be able to get people's consistent feedback and input in between meetings, you'll have more than enough space to be able to create that channel, and other people can contribute to that, answer any questions as needed. This way, again, we can really foster that sense of being able to help and learn from each other, and keep the momentum going in between our bi-weekly meetings. This can also be a space as well too, where if an issue does arise or something comes up, we can then propose it to put it on the agenda for next meeting and have a bit of a discussion from there. Any thoughts on that? Does that sound good to folks? We don't have to discuss the specifics right now, but even afterwards, setting out a doodle in terms of what platform we want to use. But does the idea of that kind of resonate with people? Perfect. I'm seeing some thumbs up. And then so what we'll do then in terms of just kind of wrap up now a little bit, in terms of next actions and everything, is that we're going to reach out to you folks to be able to probably in a doodle poll just to be able to get some ideas on specifics, whether we want to use Slack or whether we want to go to Discord or some other software, but for us to be able to communicate on. Also as well too, we're going to do a bit of an open call. I'm seeing some here. Perfect. Oh, excellent. Actually, I'm seeing a lot of comments here on Discord. So we'll do the poll, but it actually seems like Discord might be a winner. We also are going to do a bit of a call for proposals for agenda items for our next meeting. So anything that you want to be able to discuss with the group, any topics or ideas that you've been ruminating on, please feel free to reach out and propose them, and then we'll add that onto the agenda, and we'll have some time to be able to discuss it. In terms of our next meeting, we'll be sending out a calendar invite shortly. But our next meeting will be, again, this time. It's because people who sports like didn't say anything. Okay, perfect. Thank you. We'll be having another meeting on Monday, June 30th at the exact same time. So we'll get that all on your calendars so that way you have plenty of notice beforehand. In terms of where to be able to propose ideas, we'll send a follow-up email with both the recording of this meeting, as well as the contact information that you need. And David, if you can maybe even put your email in the chat. But please feel free to reach out to either David, myself, Karsten, or any of the other Democracy R&D team, and we can make sure that we can add your ideas and proposals onto the agenda. Any final questions or comments from anyone before we head off? David?
Yeah, two things. One, it's going to be critically important that each one of you can communicate what you're trying to do and what challenges you're having and what help you could use. To the extent that everybody knows that, this group can make a critical difference. The other thing is we need to make a decision for next time. I asked, does anybody have a project that they would want some help with next time? So far, I've got one request, and that was from Nick Kokoma and Assemble America, who could use help thinking through the design for their People's Constitutional Convention. Is there anybody else that feels like it would make a big difference to you if you could get help with your project, June 30th, I think it is?
And if no one has anything right now, again, we will be reaching out afterwards, and we could be able to provide some space for folks to be able to suggest something in the meantime.
I'd say by default, let's say that it will be Assemble America and their constitutional convention.
Shay?
Just to let you know, I think we will be really glad if, like, after next session, which will be like August, I guess, that would be a really great spot for us, I think, to pitch our project. Because we're not quite there yet, just in this short term, but it would be too bad if it's too late, because we have to kind of wrap up the project in the end of the year, so August would be perfect.
That would be great. So Assemble America in June and Pro Futuris in August.
Right. Thank you, David, and thank you, Shay, for volunteering. It's great. We already have our next two meetings pseudo planned out already, so that's a great start. Any final thoughts from anyone before I let you have the rest of your day back?
One more. To the extent that anybody has thoughts about how to make the process of helping each other and learning from each other and so forth work smoothly, given the limits of everybody's time and attention, please let us know. We need those.
Okay, thank you, David, and thank you all for joining us, for taking time out of your busy day. And I'm really excited by the energy in the room today and really looking forward to be able to see you all more regularly and to learn and grow together. Good. Okay, take care, everyone.
Still want to have a debrief, probably just among you two, right?